Hello, ladies and gentlemen. A very warm welcome to our live webinar, Dynamic Workplace Culture, Innovations, and Initiative webinar. This is yet another part of our series of Great Place to Work webinars. And my name is Tanzila Rahman. I'm the Managing Director of Great Place to Work Saudi Arabia. I'm speaking from the Great Place to Work Saudi Arabian office. I have distinguished guests with me. I would like to introduce them individually. Ms. Claudinia Harper, who is the Director of People at TBWA Rad. Mr. Ali Asghar Dohadwala, the co-founder CEO at Vision Tech. And Mr. Ghaith Ammar, who is the Organizational Development Manager at Kun Sports. Very warm welcome to our panel, ladies and gentlemen. So today's topic is dynamic workplace culture, and our panel is the curator and the engineers behind, developing a dynamic workplace culture in their workplace environment. So we would ask them questions to know more about the secrets of creating this beautiful culture in their workplaces, and how did they reap the fruits of the success by installing this particular culture in their workplace environments. So I would begin with a general question that what does a dynamic workplace culture mean to you, and why is it essential for the future of work? I would begin with Mr. Ghaith. Ghaith, would you like to begin?
Hello, Tanzil. Hello, distinguished guests. Hello to the audience. Thank you so much for having me here. This is a great opportunity to speak on dynamic workplace culture, and this means a lot to me, I'm sure as it means to you guys. So, to answer your question, a dynamic workplace culture, for me especially, is adaptable, innovative, and must be centered around employee engagement and growth. We believe in open communication. We believe that continuous learning and the willingness to evolve, both on organizational and external environmental change. The future of work, you will need a dynamic culture. This is out of the question because it empowers people to become more agile, creative, and aligned with your organizational goals as you set them from the management side. As new generations enter the workforce, they seek flexibility, purpose, and inclusivity in their work environments. And I believe that these traits are foundational to a dynamic culture. I would give an example as an organization that has successfully fostered the dynamic workplace culture, Kun Sports, obviously from my own experience, as we have developed a culture, I believe, that both innovates and concerns with employee well-being. A key driver of success is our commitment to continuous feedback. As I mentioned before, open communication, we run employee surveys and feedback mechanisms to understand where we're working and where we need improvements. Another driver is employee empowerment. We provide our teams with autonomy to take ownership of their work. And finally, we focus and emphasize on well-being as it's crucial by offering our wellness programs, work-life balance, reward programs, so the employees can feel valued and supported in their workplace.
Excellent, very to the point and concise, Ghaith. Thank you so much. Mr. Ali Asghar, would you like to shed some light on what do you mean by dynamic workplace culture, and what is the essential of the future of work?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me here. Great place to work, and it's nice to see this two distinguished guests here with me today, sharing this platform. Very interesting topic, dynamic workplace. Things have changed in last 4-5 years. We all know. Well, for a dynamic workplace to be, I would say that an environment which allows challenges to be met collaboratively between people and teams, between the management, allowing more open space, like Gaith mentioned about sparking and conversation around innovation, where people come together, empower themselves, okay, and more about people who can bring their authenticate self to work. So basically, it's all about people coming in every morning, excited, passionate about what they're going to do and deliver today, about what their company has given them in terms of the power that they can use, and share that with the others, and leverage not only within their internal teams, but also take that back to their external environment, and bring more value between each other. So yes, dynamic work culture is very, very important. It is becoming a part of a process where people actually look up to the companies with these values. Talking about a company who must have had or who has driven a lot of us. There are a lot of companies. I mean, Vision Tech, which is itself a 100 people company, plus we have multiple offices. We have adopted a lot of such initiatives in place in the organization, inspired by the likes of Google, Microsoft, inspired by the like of some very large government entities, okay, where they allow their teams to give a common vision, okay, and then they all work towards that common goal together, where despite the rigorous tasks that are given, okay, they still enjoy it with passion, and time is not a bound anymore. Okay, so I mean, these are the kind of environments that you would want to foster and be a part of it. And with Vision Tech, I'm proud to say that I have a team, okay, who thinks alike and who does alike. So we have this in us. This is a culture that we have built over last 20 years of our company.
Wonderful, Ali. It's great to know that you've nurtured this culture in your organization right from the core essence of your culture. And I believe these challenges are the ones that actually prompted you to develop these measures that help you today and where you are. So, talking about diversity, we'll move on to Ms. Claudinia Harper, who will share with us her secrets about how did she manage to create this culture of dynamism in her workplace.
Good afternoon, Tanzil. Good afternoon, everyone who's joined us. Thank you so much for the opportunity to discuss this topic that is so close to my heart. And I'm super excited to learn from my co-speakers today as well. So in response to your question, so TBWA ROD, we recognize as a creative agency that the key to great creative work is to invest in optimizing our talent experience in order to set up our people to do their very best work. So in the past 2.5, almost 3 years, building a dynamic workplace culture has been an absolute priority for our leadership team. And I'm so proud to be working with our CEO and our leadership team on this. We started with an always-on listening approach. We listen with great intentionality to our people using all the channels available to us. We get really rich input from our people in our internal engagement survey, and we validate those results with an external survey like Great Place to Work's Trust Index, which has been so useful in doing that. We collect new information from our new hire check-ins to stay interviews with our key talent, to exit interviews with talent that move on. We have regular town hall meetings and department meetings. So we're always giving our people a voice, a way to be involved, to help shape our strategies, but also to give us really straightforward and honest feedback on how effective those strategies are. We're also really inclusive as a leadership team when it comes to strategy execution. When our leadership team have defined our new strategic direction for the agency, which was very ambitious, we didn't leave it there. We very intentionally involved all our employees in shaping and refining that strategy. And then we involved that next level of leaders in co-leading the execution of that strategy. So it wasn't just a top senior leadership issue, but everyone was involved. I think Gates referred to the importance of employee well-being in creating a dynamic workplace culture. We've put that front and center over the past 2 years. So besides flexible working hours, 1 day work from home, and 4 weeks of remote work from anywhere for all our employees, we also introduced probably one of the most innovative initiatives in our industry sector of advertising and marketing, which is called Pause to Recharge, which aims to protect employee breaks and their downtime. One of the initiatives that supported creating our dynamic workplace culture that we're so proud of, and that's, again, really close to my heart, was our Women in the Workplace culture. We're exceedingly proud of this one. Earlier this year, we, first of all, we surveyed the women in the agency, because this is a really tough industry to attract and retain female talent. So we surveyed them to identify their specific needs, and then we brought in initiatives that meet those needs. Exactly. So these include extending our maternity leave benefit, an additional work from home day for working mothers, a well-being day for all female employees. So all of those addressing what they said were their unique needs. We also introduced rewards that drive very specific behaviors that contribute to achieving our results. And then we've moved away from a broad retention strategy across the organization to very personalized retention strategies. We use stay interviews to hear from our key talent what makes them tick, what motivates and demotivates them, how they see themselves growing within the agency. And then we build a personalized retention plan to help them achieve their full potential. And those are just some of the initiatives that we've introduced over the past 2.5 years.
Wow, this sounds fantastic, Claudinia. I think you've already given up the cheat sheet to create a dynamic workplace culture for all our audience. So thank you very much for that. I would also like to have a secondary question in relation to this topic from you. How can, since you've gone through this drill, how can other companies embrace innovation while staying true with their core values? I mean, this seems to be a bit of a challenge here. So how did you manage to cope with this?
It absolutely is a challenge. And in my years of experience, I've seen how this is done well and not so well. So I'll speak for TBWA, Rad. We baked innovation into our workplace culture. We first of all identified our strategic priorities. What are the capabilities that will help us achieve our goals? And the first of these, as a creative agency, is innovation. Then we designed a culture blueprint based on core values that supports all of our strategic priorities, especially innovation. And then we identified what are the behaviors we need to see to drive innovation. And these values and behaviors are not just pretty words on a wall. We very intentionally embedded them into every touch point in our employee experience journey, from talent attraction and recruitment through to onboarding, training, performance management, so that innovation is at the center of our workplace culture, not something that fights against it or on the side.
Amazing. So this is a very simple strategy that you took it over and you embedded the innovation in your culture. So there was no resistance in sticking to your core values. It sounds fantastic. I'll move on to Mr. Ali. Mr. Ali, since you are the CEO of Vision Tech, which is a technology organization, so my question is rather simple from you. What role does technology play in shaping the dynamic workplace culture? And are there any tools that you would like to recommend to the listeners?
Sure. Thank you, Tanzil. So, in post COVID, things have been moving and moving and moving into the technology grid. So yes, there's a very thick role that technology plays in terms of how they can make the workplace more dynamic, more collaborative, more accessible for many of the people. In fact, remote working, which is the key word or the hot word these days in the industry, especially for all the organizations here that are participating and across. It is all because of the technology leverage that we have been able to do with. So there were tools or applications which were initially not accepted by the organizations. I mean, we ourselves had certain hesitations, but then eventually we understood the value of it. We understood that how a simple tool like Zoom or Teams or the platform that we're using right now does the entire job of which we have to maybe wait for a week or a month to get across for a meeting or for a discussion which was very critical or very important. There are multiple tools, there are multiple applications which can now, because they come from an open platform, they can be collaborated. So your HR system can also talk with your video conferencing application or with your telephonic application, or connect you with your sales report CRM. So it's a different way of how every organization can engage. Not that it is not challenging. It is. There are people who are not actually able to adopt or maybe convert the idea into an adoption technology. But there's always an initiative that can be taken, and that is only possible when you have that kind of a team internally who understands and values it. And there's a certain research that needs to go into this. There's a certain calculation in terms of who is capable of driving it needs to go into it. There always needs to be a captain, okay, who needs to take up the initiative and roll it out. So technology is does sound easy, is available, but it takes time and experience to roll out, and having a right partner is very important. You're talking about what tools or what platforms. So the first most common tool that has been adopted by most of the global organization, and now even come down to the SMEs, is the learning platforms. So if you're talking about a certain best practice, so today even organizations like Harvard or Cambridge take LinkedIn as one of their platforms to showcase their tools, their courses, which can be used by not only the early beginners but also by the executives or the board of directors. Then you're talking about platforms which are your discussion or meeting apps, okay, where board of meetings are actually now happening online over a video conferencing platform, and these are secure channels, secure tools. So there are multiple platforms, there are multiple tools. I mean, this is a very vast subject, okay, but and I can go on and on, but I'm sure that technology has a, to end this rightly, I would say that having an effective approach to getting productivity is very important. So having a tool is productive, but having a tool can also create an ineffective or effective mileage within the organization. So that is where it stands as of today.
And that is where you are the ones who actually were able to create a culture, because you were able to actually embed that particular tool into the culture in a way where it adds to your dream of creating a dynamic workplace culture. So thank you, Ali, for a very elaborated answer. I'll move on to Ghaith. Ghaith, how are companies using data and analytics to measure and improve workplace culture? Because we believe that we cannot manage what we can't measure. So how did you manage that journey?
Thank you so much, Tanzil, and other speakers for your valuable insights on all the questions. Thank you for asking me this question, as I personally connect with this question. So 2 years ago, our management has decided to launch our digital transformation program, and especially in HR or in on our field, it was a big challenge to move everything digital. So first, we started with our HRMS, the HR system. Other speakers were speaking about this. We started by implementing all the modules that are available in the system. So you're talking from onboarding, employee performance, PDP plans, recruitment, getting everything integrated, getting everything in place. I think that would go a long way. After that, we have worked with third-party providers to go for an LMS software. The other speakers were speaking about that. And then you will have everything on one platform, whether it's the courses that you are taking, the examination that you're going to go through, your certifications. And lastly, and the last piece of the puzzle was our engagement platform, EngageSoft. So I mentioned a bit about this in my first answer, where we run surveys, we have heat maps, dashboards, so you can really pinpoint where you need some improvements or where you're doing well, and try to adapt these tools into our culture. So basically, at Kun Sports, we do leverage data analytics extensively to measure our workplace culture. We track any metric you would think of when it comes to HR after our transformation has been done: employee satisfaction, turnover, engagement scores. This allows you to take very informative decisions when you're trying to move forward. Using all these tools that I have mentioned before, it allows you to gather real-time feedback, and that's where the secret is. It's about these post surveys where you analyze patterns, yeah, that come to you in these dashboards digitally. You're talking about absenteeism, productivity, and then you can pinpoint where you need the improvement, and where you should put your resource and efforts so it wouldn't go to waste. For example, if you notice a dip in engagement scores in a particular department, then your action plan would be, let's go to that department and target that department initiatives to improve morale. Let's do team building activities for that department. Let's have a leadership coaching session. Yeah, this data allows you to personalize the employee experience, and this is the most important thing, ensuring that each team members feel supported and valued for what is meaningful to them.
Amazing, amazing, Rab. I think you've really summed it up really nicely. And runtime feedback is the thing which I would say that is a great amalgamation of technology with creating a dynamic workflow, especially when there's so much millennials and Generation Z around. So it is a challenge that can be coped with technology. So a related question to you, Claudinia. So what are some initiatives that you think are innovative initiatives that have significantly boosted employee engagement in your organization? You're on mute, I guess. So, yeah.
My apologies. I think I listed some of those earlier when you asked me how we did that at TBWA, right? But to summarize them again, for us, it was very much a blueprint that we called the Reset program, and it consisted of a very ambitious and compelling vision and strategy, and always on listening approach to gather data and information, and constant two-way feedback. Like Gaither mentioned, how you use data to inform your strategies and make sure you're on track. That inclusive strategy execution approach we used, the innovative employee wellbeing initiative, that really was so different, and that helps us put up our staff in a position where they can create the best work that they possibly can. We've seen huge benefits in creating a dynamic culture with our focus on DEI and specifically women in the workplace, and building that representation of women in key leadership, but also supporting women and working mothers in the agency. And then we were very strategic about rewards that drive the right behaviors to achieve results. And of course, I mentioned also our stay interviews and the personalized retention strategies, all based on involvement and open communication and putting the employee experience at the forefront of what we're building.
Amazing, Claudinia. So inclusiveness and communication and listening are the principles that actually drive you to these innovative solutions. So sounds fantastic. Moving on to Ali again. Ali, how does fostering, now I'm talking about inclusivity. So how does fostering a culture of inclusivity contributed to your creation of a dynamic workforce?
Very interesting question, Tanzil. If, let me ask this to the audience and all of us, if an organization has a vision, okay, and if they keep that vision to themselves, can they grow? It's very simple. I mean, inclusivity or employee engagement is today the heart of it. If you're not going to engage, it can be a very small decision. Like 6 years back, we started an activity called VPL, Vision Tech Premier League. It's a cricket tournament that we started. The reason why we came up with this idea was that whenever there was an absenteeism, whenever there was a person missing on the ground in a technical department or in the finance, or maybe it's as little as a driver, okay, people didn't know each other, right? So we've got such a large team with 3 different locations operating in Abu Dhabi, Ras Al Khaimah, across the UAE. Sometimes the staff is even traveling for execution in other countries. With VPL, what happened is the driver is the batsman and the finance guy is the bowler, right? And these 80, 90 people who choose to participate in the tournament. And today we've done 6 seasons this year. So it's a very simple thing. You're talking about innovation. People openly come up and tell their ideas when you have inclusivity. They come and they take up responsibilities, and if you're delegating them something, they now know, okay, that this delegation has been discussed with me. So when you talk about, say one of these best practices, it would be when you do these open forums, when you do these meetings. So there are companies, the larger companies, or we used to do it finance. Okay, we only call them the accountants and the auditors. No, now we have key stakeholders from the sales team, from the technical team. They need to know what's going on in the organization. Let them participate. Let them join hands and agree to work around it. So basically, if today the finance guy throws a statement at the sales guys and tells them to clear this payment, but it's the technical team who's on the field and not addressing it, or it's the delivery guy who has not delivered the equipment, how would we know about it? And why would these people feel comfortable, okay, of just picking up a random guy and calling him, telling you, where is it? Why is the job not done? So inclusivity is the actual essence of dynamic workplace. Inclusivity is where the engagement process should begin and continue. It should be a part of your vision, mission statement, and it should be delivered and discussed with everybody in the organization all across the ground. And not only they, but when they go to another organization, to a customer, to a supplier, to a vendor, they should be able to tell them about it and talk to them about it and involve them in this mission vision statement of that organization. That's what inclusivity should be about.
Amazing. The single most important element to create a dynamic workforce is actually inclusiveness. So you've quoted some great examples, Ali Asghar. Thank you for that. Now I'll move on to to identify that the challenges. So in a hybrid work environment which we are currently in, how can organizations ensure that employees feel connected and engaged in order to create a dynamic workplace? Yeah.
All right, thank you, Tenzil. For this specific question, I just want to say that we are the first in our industry, which is the fitness industry, where we have implemented strategies where to keep our employees engaged. As we have, just like Claudinia mentioned, we have implemented a remote work policy, a flexible working hours policy. We have given our employees the chance to give out multiple excuse requests, extended maternity leave, etc., etc. So with that comes a challenge of keeping people engaged and connected. So basically, I want to go back to the point Ali made. I want to go straight to the answer. Using simple tools such as Microsoft Teams and Zoom, but using them correctly. So in a hybrid work environment, ensuring connection and engagement is a combination of technology and human touch points. You can't just have the tool without the human touch point. It's a mixture of both. And I think that goes a long way. So we use these collaboration tools to facilitate real-time communication and teamwork across the departments. So everyone is engaged, everyone believes in the tool, everyone uses the tool to the fullest extent. So regardless of location, you have these town hall meetings, the virtual meetings that Claudina mentioned before, virtual even team building activities. Now you can launch these ones, regular check-ins between the manager and the employee. It keeps everyone connected. Also very important is to encourage managers to hold one-on-one meetings with their team members to address any concerns and ensure that they feel supported. Because if you're in a remote workplace and you don't meet your manager, maybe sometimes you get out of context, you feel not supported, not engaged. So that little touch is where the manager goes onto one-to-one meeting with the employee, focuses on his employee well-being, even remotely. It offers a lot of productivity. It improves productivity. So let's say offering schedules and partnership with mental health institutes like Sajia, for example, is what we have done to ensure our teams feels valued and engaged in a remote working environment.
Amazing, Gath. So you said a very key word, that is touch points. So touch points are the ones which actually where you worked, and this is what created the culture with the help of technology. So moving on to Claudinia. Claudinia, I would ask you a broader question. So when a company or an organization wants to shift towards an innovative workplace culture, what are the challenges that you faced, and how they can be overcome? So maybe for the listeners who are really keen on taking notes and making sure they would implement these changes tomorrow, what are your guidances to them?
Thanks, Tanzil. Over the years, I've seen so many things. I've experienced so many things in the different organizations I've worked in and led culture transformation programs. So I have a lot to share on this side. I think one of the most common challenges I've seen is having a poorly defined culture blueprint or design. Even having a leadership team that is not clear on what culture is. If some people think that culture is the bean bags and the pizza on a Thursday and the pool table or the parties we have, that's not culture. Culture is very clearly the behaviors that people display, how they interact, what decisions are based on, what's important in the organization. So it's very important to have a shared understanding of what is culture and then also what is the desired culture for us. Then you need to make sure, is it clear to everyone in the organization? What kind of workplace culture is desired? Why is it desired? How do they live out that culture? So what we did at TBWA Rod was we articulated our desired culture in terms of our core values. And for each core value, we identified these are the behaviors that's expected of all of us. We call that how we live our values. And then we had behaviors for each core value that's expected of leaders because they're the custodians of culture. And that was called how we lead our values. And with every new joiner onboarding, with every training session, those messages are made very, very clear to everyone. So it's clear, this is our blueprint, this is what we're going for. Another challenge I see often is just complete lack of buy-in from employees, usually either because they don't know what it's about or because they're so cynical. Yes, we've heard about culture, we see the signs on the decals on the walls, but nothing really happens. The only way to overcome employee cynicism and get everyone in your organization to buy in is to be super structured and super intentional about your communication and your change management. I always recommend, after these years of experience, over communicate and over involve. So involve your people at all levels in designing what the culture should look like, in developing the initiatives that build the culture, in ensuring there's two-way feedback so they can tell you what's working, what's not working. Then people are involved, then they are engaged in the process. It's a collaborative, collective effort to build the culture in this workplace. We all own it. Another potential pitfall, which is a particular bugbear of mine, being in HR, is having an overarching belief in the company that culture building is HR's responsibility. This really is one of your biggest pitfalls. If you're a leader or the leader in an organization, this is going to be one of your biggest pitfalls to sustained culture change if you're working towards building a dynamic workplace culture. The reality is that your talent do not work for HR. They work for you as a leader. They do not bring their discretionary effort for HR. They bring that extra effort for you as the leader. So the only way to overcome this challenge is for senior leadership to make it emphatically clear that culture change is a business issue and that the accountability for building the desired culture sits with the leaders in that organization. And then lastly, a challenge that comes to mind and which is very real for any business and any industry sector are the external pressures like shareholder expectations, market changes, industry developments that might pose risks to staying consistent with your culture change efforts. Let's be real, it's always a challenge balancing those pressures with the need to invest in your company's long-term cultural health. As we know, the reality is that culture eats strategy for breakfast. So the best way to overcome this is to position having a dynamic workplace culture as the enabler for achieving business results, not additional, not a side to achieving business results, but the enabler for actually achieving those business results. And you need to communicate that and make sure that there's shared understanding of that with all your stakeholders, from the most senior to the most junior. This way, no matter how challenging or pressing or loud that external pressure is, the focus on building your desired culture will remain a priority and it doesn't have to be put on hold. Thank you.
Amazing, Claudinia. I think you've for our listeners, I think you've really provided the blueprint very clearly and provided the checklist for them to actually make things happen at their workplaces. Very simply put. I really appreciate it. So moving on to Ali Asghar with the most difficult question of this webinar. Um, so with the rise of Generation Z and millennial workers, how should companies adapt their workplace culture to meet the needs of these generations? I promise you a difficult question.
Thank you, Tanzil. I will always remember you for this. I want to appreciate what Claudinia said earlier about creating a work culture with a certain responsibility and mentioning about how to take them through the journey of the organization itself. Um, so you know to answer this, let's look at how the audience understand this. So there are baby boomers, right, who were focusing only on job security. They were not worried about, you know, work culture and who's my boss and what is in it for me. No, they were focusing there. Then came the millennials, right? You and me probably, okay, who are more into work-life balance, okay, who is happy with those 30 days holiday once in a year or a little more on the Diwali and Eid if we can, okay, but we want things in place, jobs, designation, the status, and so on. Now we're talking about the Gen Z, yeah, the people who are not looking at uh, job security at all, but they're more focused on the values of the organization, and they're trying to align their values, their social well-being, okay, if the organization is capable of aligning to that. And being in IT industry, believe me, this is right now the most difficult, the most painful point that we have to address very soon, if not soon enough, because we need them. They are the innovators. They are the ones who can actually build and launch a successful startup or a successful division or a successful business formula within an organization. They know so much. Internet has suddenly opened up, so much from the age of 4 onwards, right? And sometimes you're tired. They have so many questions. They've got so much already they know about you and your organization when you actually meet them, which is impressive, okay, but uh, on a more focused side, okay, two things that if you're looking at hiring somebody from Gen Z is very important. One is you have to give them time. There needs to be a focus, okay, on developing a certain awareness about the organization's value, and the vision mission, about the ethical code of conduct, which is very important. These days, 4 days of work is also becoming a burden for many. Okay, especially with the younger generation, it is becoming more and more difficult for them to, why do we have to come to the office or work? But then you need consistency, my friend. So the idea is not that we want more from you. The idea is we want effective and productive value towards the organization and organization's goals from you, right? Second most important thing is engagement. There needs to be a proper process of engagement from the leader of which department they have joined, engagement from the point of the induction that happens of them in the organization, to showing them the entire hierarchy, to showing them that who is responsible for what. This is very important. These things will allow them foster their own understanding, and a culture that they want to bring can be adaptable. They will think before they proceed. Right now what is happening is they've already started proceeding, right? Because it's an open platform. They just go and Google it, or they just go and search for things that they can align with, and they have immediate answers. They have immediate comparisons, responses. I mean, this is how Google does it. This is how LinkedIn does it. This is how Microsoft does it. We should look at it. Of course, we're looking at it. Of course, we've grown from them. We have also learned from them. Not that we are a younger organization, but we may be a bigger organization or a better organization in terms of the values that or the services that we offer, right? But then we want them to understand that we are still an organization with our own way of approach, way of vision, way of delivering a certain business. So yes, focus on training them and creating awareness, most important, and then the hand-holding is very important. Needs to go for a longer period. So these are my two takes. When we are talking about recruiting the Gen Z.
Amazing, Ali. So you've identified a lot of challenges coming up our way, and it seems as if dynamic workplace culture is not a luxury anymore. It's an imperative that every organization, every resilient organization, must
Tanzil,
adapt to.
don't forget
Yeah.
that they are going to be competing with the AI also.
Oh, yes, indeed, indeed. So it's no more an option that we create a dynamic workplace. It's a necessity. Thank you very much, Ali. Moving on to Ghair. Ghair, um, so, would you like to mention some actionable steps that leaders should take, and especially in the context of Gen Z and millennials, to create trust within the organization, and which is a key part of any dynamic workplace culture?
Thank you, Tenzil. So I want to mention two things that I've seen firsthand done by our group CEO and our management and how they dealt with this. And then I'll give my own personal opinion on how you should deal with or how, what is the actionable steps that you should be taking. So the first thing our leaders, our management did is they created two different policies. So the first policy was an open door policy where everyone gets the right to be heard. They don't get blocked by their managers. They can come straight to HR. They can come straight to the relevant party and report anything of any extent. This is the open communication that I have been pushing for since the start of this webinar. The other policy that was created was the whistleblowing policy, where it also offers a platform where you're completely anonymous and you can report things that goes against company policy. Again, having that platform where you get your voice heard even anonymously is again another step that our leaders take to provide our employees with tools to say we hear you and your voice is heard. It's important for us and we're going to take action. For me personally, I think leaders can build and maintain trust by practicing transparency. And I think a lot of leaders don't do that. Transparency is the key. I know it might seem a bit out of place in the beginning. I don't want to do that much transparency. I don't want to be that transparent with the employees. But trust me, once you start doing this, once you start to implementing this in your strategy and your communications, it'll go a long way. Along with transparency, you should go for consistency and empathy. Without empathy, I think no leader can be a true leader. And I've seen this firsthand, honestly, from our management, how they deal with empathy with our employees. So, again, along with open communication, there should be regular updates on company performance with new initiatives and challenges the organization is facing. So that's where the transparency comes in. So the CEO or the managing director or someone will come and say, "We're facing this challenge. Well, the next steps will be one, two, three. We need your support. Come on board. Let's be aligned," and that will really help the productivity or the action plan that you're going to take in facing these challenges. Leaders also must be consistent in their actions and follow through on their promises. I think all leaders, if you promise an employee something and you don't follow up with your promise, you lose trust, and this employee will never trust you again. The second he gets an opportunity, they're out of the door. You lose valuable talent. So my advice is follow through with your promises, and trust is built over time. Through reliability and actions. And so when they see you promise something, you follow with your words, then you build the trust with them over time. We also encourage leaders to be empathetic, taking the time to understand personal and professional challenges. So most leaders maybe look only on professional challenges and they're not concerned with your personal challenges that you may be facing. So we emphasize on our leaders here at Cool Sports to take the personal challenges into consideration as well. Offering support and flexibility when employees need it the most helps reinforce this trust within the organization.
Amazing. Basically, leaders have to live up the culture to be a role model in terms of credibility and transparency and fairness. So this all curates the right environment for others to take inspiration for, and resultantly create trust for them. Amazing feedback, Red. So I'm gonna just have this final question from the panel, and then I'll move on to if there is any question from the audience. So for companies, in a summary, for companies which are just beginning to hop onto this particular journey, what advice do you have for them to actually begin small and end big. So, how should they curate their journey? And Claudinia, you can start if you want.
Happy to start. First of all, if you're wanting to start small and make meaningful changes, don't shoot in the dark or go with the latest fads in workplace culture, what you see in ads and on LinkedIn. Use the diagnostics, and my co-speakers have all spoken about the diagnostics that are available for you to gather data and intel to inform your decision making before you implement what's needed in your organization, what's going to make a meaningful impact to your organization's effectiveness, what is the behaviors that you need to see in your culture that will contribute to your company achieving its targets. Also, don't be intimidated by, this, creating a dynamic workplace culture is such a big thing. Embrace building as you go. Don't be afraid to make the small changes. You can always add layers and processes that contribute to the workplace culture you're targeting, like bricks in a wall. You can also assess effectiveness as you go and recalibrate if you need. Don't be intimidated by how big a task this seems. I've seen how starting small can be just as effective and even more sustainable than doing a big program. Importantly, systems thinking is your friend. Do not develop initiatives in isolation, again, because you heard that it worked well somewhere else. Always ask yourself, if we implement this change in this area, what impact will it have on other areas? Because you can run the risk of introducing initiatives that work against each other. So, for example, if collaboration is critical, but you have a recognition system that rewards individual delivery, for example, Employee of the Month, you might be preventing effective collaboration. You should be looking at a team-based recognition system. So carefully consider the impact of your initiatives on the whole of your ecosystem. And then this one is one of my favorites. Always involve your people. You have employed talented people. They are working there because they want to do good. No one comes to work in the morning and goes, how can I damage this company today? Everyone wants their company to do well. So involve them. They're smart. That's why you employed them. Get them involved in identifying what kind of culture you need, the design of the culture, the initiatives you're planning. There's an old saying, Tanzil, that goes, nothing about me without me. And I found this so true in organizational development efforts throughout the year. An inclusive approach means there'll be greater buy-in and commitment from more people in your organization. Your change is going to be more sustainable because everyone will feel like they've contributed, they've had ownership, they've had a hand in what the workplace culture needs to be. And then the last one from my side is just hold people accountable. You're doing all this work to create a dynamic workplace culture, but make sure that people are being held accountable for it, especially your leaders. Ensure that the changes that you want to see can be measured. In other words, I can either observe it's being done or it's not being done. Then build that into your performance management process. Hold people accountable for living out this change in their day-to-day work, especially your leaders. And Gaith and Tanzil, you just spoke about the importance of leaders role modeling. I like to say when it comes to culture change, our leaders at TBWA, right, are the chief repetition officers. The chief repetition officers. What they say are important will be important. And the more they repeat that and live that out, the more those things will become important. So measure to what extent they do that. So for example, at TBWA, right, all of our leaders have an employee engagement score for the department as part of their goals. If that trigger is not met, they're not performing. So that's a priority goal for them. At the end of the day, what gets measured gets done. So make sure you're measuring your culture change as well. Thank you.
Amazing, Claudinia. I think this is, you cannot explain it better than this. So, this is like one of the most clearest examples of the challenges and how to overcome them. Ogaith, would you like to comment on this closing question?
Yes, I would like to quickly maybe give my thoughts on this question. So you want advice, so I don't want to just say things and just give them the blueprint. No, I want to give small, actionable advice that can be put to plan that we have actually implemented here when we first started going through this journey and this culture change program of being a dynamic workplace. So, first and foremost, listen to your employees. This is the best advice I can give to companies that are starting on this journey. Is that listen to your employees. Their feedback will take you a long way into creating that culture that Claudinia and Ali are referring to, where everything is measured, where you have engagement scores. You won't reach to that ultimate goal, correct me if I'm wrong, without listening to employees, without seeing what your employees are facing right now and what their main challenges are. And how do you do that? You implement employee feedback surveys. You get an engagement platform that shows you your engagement scores. You add it in the KPIs for department heads. You pull up heat maps. You send reports to management. You do all that small actionable steps that will take you to the goal. You hold small focus groups discussions where people will provide you valuable insights into the workforce and what they value the most. From there, you can start to make changes you take that can take immediate impact. For example, if you notice that your employees in your surveys are craving recognition, well, you implement an employee appreciation or reward program. And I'm happy to say we were the first in fitness industry in Saudi Arabia to create one of the top reward programs in the Middle East when it comes, just like Claudinia says, a reward program team based, a reward for individual based, a reward for best engaged department, a reward for the best sales, yeah, the normal ones as well. I think this can go a long way. So, creating the program, running surveys, then you've taken 2, 3 steps into reaching that goal. And then you measure the impacts of these programs that you have implemented. Again, I'm a believer in resources that don't go to waste. Once you implement something, monitor the performance of that program on 1 to 2 years, see what you can adjust based on these measures, and over time, these steps will help you build the foundation for a more dynamic, inclusive, and engaged workforce culture.
Amazing advice, Gath. I think you've also clarified the journey for a lot of listeners of ours today. Um Ali, what would you say in terms of advice for the organizations who are beginning this journey?
Uh, I think Gaith and Claudinia has actually, done a very good job here. They've given out something very, very interesting. Me being the leader, I understand where Claudinia comes from when she talks about accountability. Just one thing that I probably, wanted to add here is that many organizations do not focus on training, okay, people at all the levels. They focus on spending on only people who are already delivering. Uh, you're not training people because you might lose them to the competition. You're training them why? Because you any which ways value what they can bring to your organization. So please, focus this one thing very very which is very important. And now, if you don't train them, okay, then you cannot also give them the statement of what an organization or what your organization is or is willing to gain about. So this is one thing. And second thing is appreciation. Like Gates mentioned, appreciation goes a very long way. It need not be only in the form of certificates. The open door policy itself works. Whenever a person walks in with a grievance, you can always appreciate him for something that you probably know about he has done for the organization and you never got the chance, or he was not one of those sitting in the front bench taking the certificate. No, it does not have to be. He still needs and he still deserves a certain appreciation that you can pass on to him. So these are two key takes that I would like to add here.
Amazing, amazing, Ali. Thank you so much for your advice. And so we'll move on to some quick questions Q&A. We still have 3 minutes more to go, so we'll move on to the questions one by one. So Lamia Al Holi asked, "How do you ensure DEI is adopted by the employees and is actually practiced, not just advocated? And what's the best way to communicate toxicity in the workplace?" So in 1 minute, if anyone wants to answer this.
I can
I'm
answer
happy to take a stab at it.
the second part. Yeah, please go ahead.
Sure. Okay. Again, this comes back to my earlier point. Like anything in the workplace, DEI, if you're not going to have very clear measures that people are assessed on, that becomes part of their performance, then you're not going to see DEI move forward, because there's very falsely this belief that it's an addition to my job. It's something I do as an aside rather than it is my job. So when you make it a performance target for a department head to have diversity in his team, for his engagement survey or his great place to work survey, trust index survey, to show that there is an inclusive culture in his team, if you're not making those measures, there's no reason for him to push on this. It's not a priority for him or her. So it's important to put measures in place, publish those measures, make sure everyone in the organization knows, is it representation? Is it engagement of underrepresented and underserved groups? Or is it about, practices that are observed in the team, and maybe in 360 feedback comes back to a leader. So measure and hold people accountable. DEI is not a soft issue. It's a business issue. So treat it with robust measures and performance management. And then the other one around toxicity, I want to actually hand over to Gaith, because he wanted to answer that second part. And I want to not take that opportunity from him. Gaith, do you want to go ahead?
You're on mute, Gaith.
Yes, I did want to answer that part of the question, as we have previously dealt with toxicity, and I think dealing with toxicity can be simple if you put in the right steps and you do the correct sequence. So first and foremost, you identify specific behaviors. Why are people behaving this specific way? Maybe the issue is not with the behavior of the employee, rather than the management of that department, or the culture that they have created in that department. So let's identify the behaviors first. Let's grab these people that are spreading toxicity or negativity in the workplace. Have a private discussion with them, a one-to-one. Approach the individual in a private setting. Ensure confidentialities to reduce defensiveness from these individuals. And then during this meeting, you set clear expectations, right? Communicate your expected behavior from them and provide them with a clear framework on what is acceptable conduct. And I'm sure a lot of organizations have already a code of conduct policy, or the code that they are going by. I think that should be communicated very clearly with employees. Then you provide constructive feedback after you do that. Helps individuals understand the impact of their actions and how to improve them, and let them know that it's hurting others. Let them know that this is not acceptable as per your code. Document these incidents. I would recommend doing that after. Document these incidents if it keeps on happening. And if all that doesn't work and the behavior doesn't change, do consider involving HR and let them deal with that.
Sounds
I
fantastic.
would like to add one point here. I'm going to get when you say that you have to move this to HR, but then sometimes you have to take the hard steps also, because at one point, what they will, if they are not able to understand, or they are not able to agree with the organization's value and code of conduct, okay, they always have the choice, okay, to take the next step, because you cannot be patient with them, because that only gives the people who are being honest and integrate to the organization will get a wrong message. So this is again very important. So hard steps should already be defined and should not be dragged upon. Even if the person is a performer, okay, but he does not value the organization and the organization's code of conduct, okay, he still needs to be answerable for that.
I definitely agree with you.
Indeed. Accountability for everyone. So one last question, and then we wrap up. So Afifa Fatma asks, as a graduate, when I get a job offer but doesn't match my expectations, do I accept the offer regardless of the company size, culture? Well, this is to address a very large Generation Z that are entering the market. So anyone can take this. Beth, do you want to
Can
take
I
it
take
further?
this?
Yeah.
All right. So she's saying the offer doesn't match her expectations, but I'm guessing the company size and culture do. So my advice, and it's based on my HR experience, is that during the interview, if you feel like this culture or this place has a culture that you want to be a part of, and the company size is big enough that you feel like there is room for growth, and that gets communicated to you in the interview, and it doesn't match your expectation now, but in 1 to 2 years with this evolving culture, having the right culture in place, company size is growing, and you getting the next opportunity, I think it's better than turning the offer down right now and looking for a place that has a toxic culture and that doesn't fit your expectations.
Amazing, to the point, and I really appreciate the answer there. This brings us to the end of this webinar. We've already passed 1 hour. We didn't plan for an hour, but with the experience of our panel, we managed to have this super interesting conversation, and I'm sure our audience has really enjoyed it and took notes. I really thank you, Claudinia, Ali Asghar, and Ghaet for your time and your pearls of wisdom that you spread today. And we'll look forward to see you in another session. And thank you, everyone who has joined us. And please join us for yet another webinar of Great Place to Work in a few weeks to come. And please reach out to us at greatplacetowork.me if you have any webinar request in a respective topic that you would like to hear from the panel. Thank you very much, all, and we'll catch up each other at some other time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.